everybody, welcome back to English 112. This is for our class for Thursday, the 28th, where we are continuing our review of A Midsummer Night's Dream. Last class, I had you watch the first part of Midsummer Night's Dream, where we were introduced to the major characters and some of the conflicts. And what we will see in part 2 out of the 3 parts that we will be watching is how those conflicts escalate. And I was indicating that in a Shakespearean play, you can sort of anticipate what will be happening, in that the first act will introduce us to characters. The second act will give us some rising action. The third act will be the pinnacle of action. The fourth act will be the beginning of resolution. And the fifth act will be resolution. So, as you know, we were introduced to a fairy kingdom as well as introduced to a human kingdom, and there are parallels between the two, which is one of the reasons why we've got the same actors who are playing King Theseus and Queen Hippolyta, as well as Titania and Oberon. And we know that ultimately Puck, who is Oberon's servant, has been instructed to use some magical love juice on individuals in order to be able to give an opportunity for his master to be able to take the changeling child from his wife. That said, we also know that Oberon has made a decision that he would like basically Helena and Demetrius to have a renewed love with one another. We aren't given the specific reasons why, but we do know that he's suffering from his own love troubles, so one assumes that he has a certain level of empathy. The instructions Puck happens to be given are not necessarily as clear as they could be. They were basically was told to put the love juice on the eyes of the man wearing the Athenian garb, which leads for the possibility of misunderstanding, which is exactly what happens, which is what we expect in a comedy. And also, Puck, acting on his own, decides to take that character Bottom, who is at the bottom of the social scale and also a buffoon, and transform him into an ass, which is very appropriate considering Bottom's personality. So what we will end up seeing is that when Titania, who's under the love spell, awakes and falls in love with the first thing she sees, well, it's going to be Bottom, the ass, leading to all kinds of opportunities for comedy. And we also see, and you can see this below with the section on plot in section 2, because of the love juice and Puck's error in putting the love juice on Lysander's eyes first, and then realizing his mistake and being forced to rectify his mistake. So he puts it on Demetrius's eyes, but he never undoes his first mistake. And we can even discuss whether or not this is a legitimate mistake. Because of the love juice, now both men are in love with Helena. She's our tall blonde character, as opposed to Hermia, our short brunette. The exact opposite of how the play began. Helena thinks she's some sort of victim of a prank. Hermia believes her former best friend Helena is trying to basically steal her man. And this is where we see what I call the cat fight that ensues. And it's no accident that it occurs in the third act, where there are lots of insults, including terms like painted maypole, which we will talk about why that is an insult next class or in the next few classes. The love juice ultimately is removed from the wrong person, Lysander, so he returns to loving Hermia. And the love juice remains on Demetrius, so he remains loving Helena. And the idea is that this is some sort of resolution of order, because this is how the play was before it began, that Demetrius and Helena had a relationship that's alluded to, but he has changed his mind and moved on. The love juice is removed from Titania. She realizes that she was in love with a figurative and literal ass. And the donkey spell needs to be removed from Bottom, so he returns to human form, even though he still continues to act like an ass. And King Theseus declares that now that the couples are happy, he's not going to intervene. So basically, everyone is content except for Hermia's father, Aegeus, who must accept that edict. And in theory, it would seem that the play is done, but it's not. We still have an Act 5, and that will be Bonham and his cohorts putting on the play within a play. And that will be the last piece that we will be viewing next class before we talk about A Midsummer Night's Dream. We'll also start talking about things like journals and papers for the drama section as I'm working my way through your first paper. And as you all know, you all have the option of revising that first paper. So if it turns out that you want to pursue that option, you can take my comments into account. And if you're not quite sure how to proceed, you can always make an appointment with me and I can give you some direction. I just ask that you hand in the evaluated copy with my comments along with your revision before the ending of the semester. And one last piece, as you know, that Halloween is right around the corner. So if you are a fan of Halloween and or a fan of horror film, and I'm both, I am going to be giving a presentation on horror film this Saturday. It's being sponsored by the Lava Center in downtown Greenfield, and it's entitled Ticket to Terror, Horror Film in the Age of Anxiety. And it's a review of the history of horror film and how it reflects some of the current fears and anxieties of those films' times. And that is Saturday, October 30th at 1 p.m. It will be via Zoom, and you can see in the links below that you can pre-register for Zoom, or you can just go onto my Zoom site if you wanted to. It's the same Zoom that I use for our classes, and that's, again, in the notes below. So for today's attendance question, since last class I asked you to try to identify the most interesting character, I thought we could do the opposite. Thus far in your viewing, which character do you find to be the least interesting in Midsummer Night's Dream, and why? So I hope you're doing well. I'm doing well, and we will continue on next class with A Midsummer Night's Dream. Enjoy the performance.